They're ready now. Mhm.
Good afternoon, everyone. The special meeting of the Desert Community College District Board of Trustees is now called to order at 1:16 p.m. You may join us today's meeting in person via Zoom webinar or watch the live stream from the College of the Desert YouTube channel. These links are accessible by visiting the College of the Desert homepage. We will now proceed with the roll call. Acting President Garcia.
Student Trustee Robles,
Here.
Trustee Sanchez Fulton, Trustee Meyer,
Here.
Trustee Perez,
Here.
Trustee Oden,
Here.
Trustee Kitteman.
Here. I would like to invite Trustee Meyer to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Good, sir. Thank you.
Place your right hand over your heart and honor the flag by saying our Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the States of America and to the republic for which it stands.
Thank you, Trustee Meyer. Moving on to our agenda, item 2.01, board meeting agenda. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.2B2, the board may take action on items of business not appearing on the posted agenda upon a determination by a 2/3 vote of the board, or if less than 2/3 of the members are present, a unanimous vote of those present. That there is a need to take immediate action and that need for action came to the attention of the local agency subsequent to the agenda being posted as specified. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions to the agenda for February 21, 2025? Seeing none, the agenda stands as presented. Public comments. Friday, excuse me. I'm looking for, thank you. It's like my font is, and my glasses aren't working together. Okay, item 3.01, request to address the Board of Trustees regarding regular agenda items. Remote public participation is allowed and will be accepted in person by email to otp@collegeofthedesert.edu during the meeting and submitted for the record, or by using the raise your hand function by joining the Zoom link. Pursuant to the District Administrative Procedure 2345, each speaker will be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes per topic. 15 minutes shall be the maximum time allotment for public speakers on any one subject, regardless of the number of speakers at any one board meeting. At the discretion of a majority of the board, these limits may be extended. All comments must be submitted or brought forward prior to the end of the public comments section. As an additional note, this item is intended for members of the public who wish to speak regarding regular agenda items. An opportunity to address the board on matters not related to the agenda will be available during item 5.01 of today's agenda. And Irene, have we received any requests?
Chair Kitteman, we have not received any requests at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. So I will move on to item 4.01, ACCJC Board Guide Training. And I'd like President Garcia, if you could help introduce this item.
Yes, thank you, Chair, Mr. Chair. I have the pleasure of introducing to you today the board, Melanie Shield from ACCJC, who's here today to talk to us about the ACCJC Board Training Guide. I'm really excited to have Melanie here. She's been a great partner with us through this process. I would almost say she's been a cheerleader at times and sometimes a little bit heavier than that, but she's definitely been someone who's taken our best interests at hand, and we're looking forward to hearing from her right now. So Melanie, whenever you're ready.
Thank you so much. I'm just curious, am I sharing my screen or are you going to be controlling a PowerPoint?
Up to you.
Melanie, it's up to you, whatever works best. IT can pull it up, or you can also.
Okay, so Melanie, whenever you're ready.
Melanie, it's up to you, whatever works best. IT can pull it up, or you can also. IT can pull it up, or you can also. IT can pull it up, or you can also. IT can pull it up, or you can also. IT can pull it up, or you can also. IT can pull it up, or you can also. IT can pull it up, or you can also. IT can pull it up, or you can also. IT can pull it up, or you can also. IT can pull it up, or you can also. IT can pull it up, or you can also. IT can pull it up, or you can also. IT can pull it up, or you can also. IT can pull it up, or you can also. IT can pull it up, or you can also. IT can pull it up, or you can also. IT can pull it up, or you can also. IT can pull it up, or you can also. IT can pull it up, or you can also. IT can pull it up, or you can also. IT can pull it up, or you can also. IT can pull it up, or you can also. IT can pull it up, or you can also. IT can pull it up, or you can also. IT can pull it up, or you can also. IT can pull it up, or you can also. IT can pull it share your screen.
If I can take just a moment to make sure it's working on my end. I'm sorry about that. It says someone else is sharing, so I will need you to share on your end, please. Perfect. So everybody can see the screen and we're good to go?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So hello, everybody. It is an absolute pleasure and honor to be invited to present this board training for you all. I want to thank you for your passion for student success and for your service in this capacity. It's a very special community there in the Coachella Valley, and you are all absolutely wonderful for the work that you do for our students. And so I really appreciate each of you individually. Next slide, please. The topics today are the accreditation purpose and process, and then the roles, responsibilities, and expectations of the governing board. And I understand that you all have received our ACCJC brochure, and I'll be referencing that. So I would encourage you, if you'd like to have it in front of you, we'll be flipping to a couple of pages. But if you would prefer to, if you're more of an auditory person, no problem at all. You'll have it to reference later on. And I do want to invite anybody, I can't see the room right now just because of the nature of the screen, but please interrupt me if there's a question that comes up at any time. No concern at all. Even if it's awkward, that's fine. It's weird with the Zoom training. So next slide, please. So accreditation represents quality control and consistency throughout higher education, and with the purpose of advancing meaningful and effective student learning achievement, we accomplish quality control through the development and application of accreditation standards. Being an accredited institution allows College of the Desert to participate in federal financial aid. It also provides assurance for transfer of credit programs for students. So whether that's into a four-year university or validating the value of the degree or certificate, we are 100% committed to continuous improvement and student achievement, and the norms and standards in the accreditation space allow for that, for us to say with confidence that higher education institutions hold up to those same standards. Next slide, please. So who is ACCJC? We are an institutional accreditor recognized by the U.S. Department of Education. We're not part of the California Community College Chancellor's Office. We have, and I'll show you on the next slide, we have institutions beyond the California system. We are considered institutional, and for those of you that recall, not too long ago, there were 7 regional accreditors, and several years ago, the regional accreditation concept was removed, and we're now institutional accreditors, which removed, it's essentially regional barriers for our operations. ACCJC is one of 7 institutional accreditors, and we specialize, we're the only accreditor that specializes in 2-year institutions. So it's a really exciting thing because the student goals, the student population, the part-time status, the life situation, the fact that the vast majority of community colleges accept 100% of their top applicants and serve them is something that we know well and that we incorporate into our standards and into our peer review processes. Next slide, please. So this map illustrates the broad coverage of ACCJC member institutions. You can see that we have diverse structures and cultures for our institutions, and we actually have one additional state that we can add to our map when we update it, which is Arizona. We do have one college in candidacy status in the state of Arizona, and all of course are community colleges with a mission of at least having an associate's degree. Next slide, please. So these are our core values, and guided by our mission to advance educational outcomes, our core values ground our practice and policies into how we function as an accreditor and how we interact with and partner with you in common service to our students and in common service to the public good of higher education. Among our other core values, I want to highlight the unique nature of accreditation in the United States. Our system is built on peer review, and each team consists of practitioners that serve in other member institutions. And so our members are trained to consider the unique nature of every institution during the review cycle. And we always practice appreciative inquiry and approach our institutions that are already accredited as accredited institutions, and we confirm that the standards are still being met. Next slide, please. And I think I have some background noise, so I'm going to pause for just one moment and see if I can take care of that noise. I'm so sorry. It should go away shortly. I'm sorry about that. All right. So these are our new accreditation. This is a highlight of our new accreditation standards. So we recently went through a change to our accreditation standards, which involved our member institutions and feedback from and really diligent work by a lot of folks within our membership. And similar to the accreditation standards that College of the Desert had in the most recent comprehensive review, we still have the four standards that you see in front of you. Throughout each of the standards, we focus on mission alignment, we focus on equitable outcomes and innovation and improvement. And the board specific section, while the board is obviously a part of ensuring that all of these things are happening, the sections that speak very specifically to the board are in Standard 1 and Standard 4. In Standard 1, with respect to the mission, the board is expected to review and approve the mission of the institution. And then in Standard 4, we have statements that speak directly to the elements of a high-functioning board. Next slide, please. So I want to switch gears and get into the specific of this board-specific discussion. A great place to start this conversation is with outside of accreditation requirements. And so the Association of Governing Boards explains the 7 roles of boards, and this demonstrates best practices of boards as defined collectively by boards themselves. And so looking at these 7 roles, I'd like to give you just a couple minutes to think of an example or practice where you carry out each of these roles at the policy level. And I will take the easy one as an example, which is number 4, approving and monitoring necessary financial resources. Each year you review the tentative budget, the final budget, and you monitor the budget with updates from your CEO or individuals that are brought forward to speak about the budget on behalf of the institution. So it's a training. So I'll pause for a minute and see if any of you would like to speak about other actions that you engage with at the policy level to address one of these 7 roles for boards. And I can't see anybody, so you'll have to speak up. There you are.
Regarding number 6, focus on the total educational experience. As a new board member, I took it upon myself to get tours of the campus and meet as many educators as I could and learn what each campus is. Well, they're not campus, they're facilities, aren't they? Centers. What each one is unique and how they view themselves in the system as a whole.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Trustee Mary Jane, I'm also a new Board of Trustees member, and ensuring that learning success data are used in improvements. We get an assessment and we're given data, and our enrollment data that we received at our board reports, and improvements are tracked. So we do have those measures at our college, and I'm still learning. Thank you.
Thank you. And yes, at the policy level, you as a board ensure that you receive the reports around student achievement and ensure that you're continuing to monitor the goals that are set by the board. So thank you for that example. Anybody else? All right, we'll move on to the next. I can't strong arm people so much from here. I can't like nudge you like I would if I was there in person. So I do appreciate your engagement. So if we take a look at number 6, you mentioned the total educational experience. You have the opportunity to approve curriculum, student outcomes, and plans and goals related to achieving the mission. And so from a policy perspective, you do touch a lot of this and want to ensure that that is happening for students. Next slide, please. So going from, oh, this one has some clicking. I'm sorry. Would you mind clicking all the way through? It's easier that way. Thank you. Oops, thank you. So going from the what boards expect of themselves for the Association of Governing Boards, this slide highlights accreditors' expectations for boards. And it really shows how board roles are operationalized. Generally, the expectations boil down to this. Effective boards act collectively to set clear policy related to the mission, delegate implementation of the policy to the CEO, and monitor results of the implementation at a high level. And all of this is done as part, excuse me, of a fiduciary duty to represent the public trust in you as elected officials. Your leadership and positive working relationships set an example, and you're modeling like a role model for the college. That impacts your morale. That impacts morale for the college, and also can inspire the leadership in your ranks, empowering them to do great work and do right by the district. And so the accreditors' expectations really talk about maintaining mission-focused leadership, ensuring prudent use of your funds, being aware and holding the institution accountable for student success through the CEO, working as a collective entity, acting consistently with the bylaws and code of ethics that you set, including setting policy direction without intruding in daily operations, working with your CEO effectively and delegating appropriately, and then ensuring board effectiveness. And I'll talk a little bit more about those and explain how they fit in with our standards. Next slide, please. So these are the kinds of questions that we've collected over the years when we are bringing teams to discuss to comprehensive evaluations and to discuss the board aspect of the accreditation standards. And so a lot of times we'll get questions like, is the board balancing the budget? Are they planning for ongoing fiscal stability? There are questions about whether the board is staying at the policy level rather than intruding into daily operations. Is the board acting as a collective entity and consistent with policies, bylaws, and the code of ethics? Is the board delegating appropriately to the district CEO, remaining in strategic space rather than in operational space? And is the board aware and accountability for student success? These are the questions that that we talk about, and I did almost go over them verbatim, but they're really good to think about as you're contemplating your function as a board. Next slide, please. And so there are 3 new standards, and I will call out now your last accreditation cycle that you're in right now actually includes the old standards, and the old standards map to these new standards very closely. So we do this new training based on the new standards, but we can have additional conversation about the mapping at a future date if you'd like. So this standard, acting through policy, the governing board takes responsibility for the overall quality and stability of the institution and regularly monitors progress towards its goals and fiscal health. And you each have in front of you, I understand, a copy of the roles and responsibilities for governing boards and accreditation. And this document goes through each of these 3 standards I'm about to talk about, and includes the review criteria that we have in the standards. That review criteria helps the colleges reflect on the board in these areas, and also is the same criteria used by the team to review the elements of the standards. So if you turn to page 4 in your document, you can see the broad parts of this standard as expressed through the review criteria. And I'll just give you a couple moments to look at that. Next slide, please. So standard 4.5 is the governing board selects the institution's chief executive officer. The governing board gives the CEO full authority to implement board policies and ensure effective operations and the fulfillment of the institutional mission. And the elements of this standard are that the board sets clear expectations for the CEO and has policies outlining those expectations and delegating authority to the CEO, and then adheres to the policies of delegating to the CEO. And this, let's see, where am I at? And so that's what standard 4.5 is. As you all know, as a board, you have one employee, which is your president or your CEO, and selection and not keeping the president that's your way of affecting change if you don't see the mission of the institution being adhered to, or you want to see a different direction, or of course people leave on their own, but that one person, that is where you exercise a lot of your authority as a board. Next slide, please.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I have a question. So if you believe that is true of your CEO, what is the process? What do you do?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Okay, if you have some concerns about your CEO, that they are not taking the institution necessarily in the right direction, how do you handle that?
So the board should have in place policies and procedures for the hiring and the oversight of their president or their CEO. So you would have
So the
policies
evaluation.
about evaluation, and you're expected to follow your own policies related to evaluation. But we don't determine what those policies are with ACCJC.
Exactly, I understand. If an institution isn't following that, what would be the concern of the ACCJC?
So if the board has policies in place, they should also have policies in place for, then I'm going to be getting to that, for self-governing, such that if there are policies that are not being followed, the board itself it would be up to the board to engage in dialogue and follow their policy around self-governance.
Okay, now that's what's unclear.
Mhm.
What would be some of the tools that the board would have access to, just in general from various institutions?
I'm fairly certain that I have not looked closely at your, and it wouldn't be up to me, it would be up to peers to review your policies and make recommendations. But every board has policies around instances where the board itself doesn't feel like they're following their own policies. And I would be glad to work with your ALO and president to find examples from other institutions if I could support that for you.
Okay. Thank you. Let's just ask it in general.
Yes, thank you. So standard 4.6 is about the board function, and in particular, the board functioning effectively as a collective entity to promote the institution's values and mission and fulfill its fiduciary responsibilities. So the governing board demonstrates an ability to self-govern in adherence to its bylaws and expectations for best practices in board governance. And really the essence of this standard, especially the second part, is you all employ the CEO, all of our boards employ their CEOs, and that is your singular employee to hire or to release according to your policies and procedures. And so the question comes up for any board is what happens if the board may be having some challenges? And it really is up to the board to self-govern, because you are the individuals that have ownership of that board, and your self-governance is the only way to stay in alignment with the policies that you yourselves have set. And that is an element of the standard that is important. And you can see it's listed here in standard 4.6. Next slide. So the two ongoing areas of focus for governing boards that we see really relate to mission-directed leadership and to the high performance of the board and the district. And effective boards, address these tasks by establishing expectations of excellence aligned with college and district goals. You want to be in alignment, of course, and then measuring performance against those expectations. And that's directly the performance of the CEO against those expectations, and then also requesting reports and updates on the goals set for the district, and by holding yourselves or boards holding themselves accountable. Next slide, please. So these are some of the questions you might consider to ensure your effectiveness as you move forward. What is the mission of the college? How is the mission reflected in your board policies? How do you know the mission and goals are being achieved? What is the frequency for receiving updates, data analysis? What type of data are you receiving? How are you monitoring fiscal health? And how do you assure legal compliance and fiscal integrity? These help you to focus on the higher level questions for the board. And one of the things that I mentioned is delegating authority to the CEO. And so if you can please go to the next slide. One of the things that I've been asked on some of my board trainings is, well, how do I make sure that I'm delegating, or how do we make sure that we're delegating to the CEO? And an easy way to do this, and to some extent, is to focus on the what rather than the how. If you find yourself getting into how something should be done at the institution, you're probably not staying at the policy level. But if you're focusing on the what would the policy be representing the entire district? What expectations for mission and vision fulfillment are out there? That will help you stay at the policy level, which is what is both recommended by boards themselves and required by the accreditation standards. And so the what would be assuring that college goals are achieved, but the delegation to the CEO is the how. Next slide, please. As board members, you want to be a very high functioning board, and you are representing the public trust. You're appointed, you have fiduciary responsibility to the institution, and you're expected to serve all stakeholders at the all stakeholders associated with the institution, and not serve any one particular perspective or one particular constituency. And so really focusing on the broad mission of the college is important for every board. And the last slide is about expectations for ongoing board improvement. If you can advance the slide, please. Continuously ask, what can we do to make our board more effective, to help our CEO be successful, and to help our colleges be successful at the policy level? So what can we do, but not necessarily how can it be done at the institution level? And so this is the essence and the core of a high functioning board. There's more information included in our handbook that I referenced earlier, and I do have some time for questions if you have any. Next slide, please.
Melanie, this is Joel Kinnaman. I did have one question on visiting teams. I know in the past, trustees were solicited to visit other institutions. Is that still a common practice?
Yeah, when we build our visiting teams, we tend to include individuals that can provide peer insight for the institution. And at times there are trustees on those teams, yes.
So I know that there used to be a solicitation of interest that would go out to CEOs that they would ask their trustees if they'd like to be on a team. Is that a worthwhile exercise for a trustee to become more familiar with, especially, I guess, Standard 4?
Absolutely. Any service on a team is a great professional development, no matter what way you're serving an institution. So we do have a volunteer form available on our website, and I can send a link over for anybody who's interested in putting their name out there to get on a team. I will note that our teams with the new standards are consisting of 5 individuals rather than 10 individuals. A large portion of that is because the standards have changed, but also the cost to the institutions it's quite a bit less because you're not bringing so many people to the institution. So there's not as high of a volume, but we are most definitely happy to have anybody who's interested in serving fill out the form.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. I'm very appreciative of the training that I've received from the ACCJC as a board member. Now, for me, I've been an elected official previously. It was in municipal government, but we have a city manager. So we live pretty much by the same principles. You know, the city manager manages the city. And as elected officials or council members or mayor, we don't get involved in the day-to-day operations. So the transition was relatively easy for me. And I wanted to especially thank you for that last little segment where you're asking the questions, because I think it's important for board members, first of all, to do introspection, taking your own inventory to see if I am doing what I am supposed to do. as an elected official. And then if I know that I'm doing well, then I have to also then begin to look at the inventory of my board. And are we doing what we should be doing? So I thank you for that. Now I guess I do have a question. The training is good. The training is outstanding. How do you move from training to action? To really taking steps to make corrections that you know the board needs.
So I would reflect that question back to the board, because we are very careful as an accrediting agency to not, we don't want to tell you, how to do all these things, right? We want to set the stage for what it might look like, but then we want you to engage in the discussion to get there. I would offer perhaps to think through the standards and think about what you would be looking for if you were a team member and observing another college to see that they're meeting those standards, and reflect on how that might look for your institution. Yeah, I think that's what I would offer, because the operationalizing of these things is really up to you, and for you and your self-reflection.
Thank you.
Any additional questions from anybody on the board? Well,
No questions from me either. I think just a comment. Just want to thank you for the presentation. I think that this is a good first step for us to show the public that we're committed and leaning in to this, I guess, for lack of better words, issue or process that we're going through right now, because we are fully committed to rectifying the situation that we're in. So I wanted to thank the board chair and my fellow colleagues as well for their attentiveness, and for yourself for the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. I look forward to continuing working with your interim CEO and your ALO as we move forward in this process. So thank you all.
Well, we're looking forward to that too. We've started, I should say, our acting president and his team have started a work plan, and we are appointing an ad hoc committee of 2 trustees to help us go through that process. And I'm pleased that Trustee Meyer and Trustee Perez has stepped up to be on that ad hoc committee. And as chair, I appoint who's on ad hoc committees, and so they've been chosen. And they'll be working directly with our acting president and moving forward with the.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Chair, I was interested, and I wish we had, I'm expressing an interest just for the sake to be on that committee. Having served as a trustee, I didn't know that there was a vote in public.
There's not a vote. As chair, the chair appoints ad hoc.
Oh, the chair, I don't know that process. So
Yeah.
was this already, when was this conducted?
Within the past 30 minutes.
Okay. I would have expressed an interest as well.
And I'm confident they'll represent the board well, working with our acting president and providing us monthly updates on how we're progressing on addressing the recommendations that came from the last visit. And again, we're embracing those recommendations. We know it's to help us and help us improve and be a better institution. And so again, thank you for helping us as we move forward on that.
My pleasure. Thank you.
You have anything else?
Just for everyone's awareness, I passed out a framework of streaking the board governance work plan, just as a framework only. I'll be working with those who are appointed to kind of do more of a deep dive and work through the plan, setting a schedule of different trainings. Also, how we're going to regularly report out what it is that we're doing. I'm looking forward and I'm excited about this venture. It's all in the framework of a continuous improvement, and so we're looking forward to it.
Okay. Let's see here. Again, I want to thank you, Vice President. And at this time, we're going to go into public comments. Item 5.01, request to address the Board of Trustees regarding matters not on the agenda. Remote public participation is allowed and will be accepted in person by email to otp@collegeofthedesert.edu during the meeting and submitted for the record, or by using the raise your hand function by joining the Zoom link pursuant to District Administrative Procedure 2345. Each speaker will be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes per topic. 15 minutes shall be the maximum time allotment for public speakers on any one subject, regardless of the number of speakers at any one board meeting. At the discretion of a majority of the board, these limits may be extended. All comments must be submitted or brought forward prior to the end of the public comment section. As an additional note, this item is intended for members of the public who wish to speak regarding matters not related to the agenda. Irene, do we have any public comments?
Board Chair Kinnaman, at this time, we have not received any public comments.
Okay, great. Thank you. I will now adjourn the special meeting of the Desert Community College District Board of Trustees at 1:58 p.m. Thank you.
Recording stopped.